All right, well, hello there, people of the world, people of the known universe. You're cool, I'm cool, we're all super cool. So, third time, still a charm. I recently, so end of April, beginning of May 2025, I did another just over 2 week trip to Europe, and I was using the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager to transport my medicine, and the unit is still going very strong, performed perfectly. So I did pick up a couple of new learnings from this trip with in relation to security screening, and so on and so forth. So and also I figured I would post this video just to sort of really demonstrate how battle tested this particular medicine cooler is at this point. So my unit's been on maybe 4 or 5 international trips, maybe 2 or 3 domestic trips. I think I've clocked in travel wise I'm going to go with 8 weeks of continuous use of this unit, because as you know, I don't quite like the hotel fridges, so I just sort of let it running through the whole trip. And then this was one of the units that I was using to do my initial testing. So on top of that, it's probably been running for a good 10 plus weeks, just while I was sort of testing it in the early days. So definitely, it's definitely collected a lot of mileage at this point, both figuratively and literally in terms of the air miles. And so, yeah, let me report out on this trip, and also any of the unique new tips that I picked up. Also, while I was at the hotel, I did some interesting side testing on trying to see how the unit would perform under different refrigeration conditions. And so once I'd used all of my live medicine, I had a chance to play around with it a little bit more, and I can show you some interesting stuff that I uncovered, which would be tips not to do if you are traveling. So let's jump on in. Alright, so as always, I have disclaimers. Here they are. Feel free to pause if you want to read them all. And just to give you a quick synopsis of this trip, so very similarly, traveling from San Francisco to London Heathrow, then on to Basel, Switzerland. And of course, there is both transit time at the airport, there's connection times in London Heathrow. This time it was quite a long one, about 6 hours, I think. And then there's arriving at the local airport, going through customs, getting to the hotel, then spending pretty much actually about 14 days, 13 nights at the Basel Marriott Hotel in a different room than the previous one. And then, of course, I used all of my medicine by the end of the trip, but I actually did have the unit running as if I was transporting medicine in the reverse of the trip back home, so that I could sort of see how it was going to perform in that direction as well. So collected all of that data, and I have it to present here today. Also, after I'd used my live medicine in the hotel and the trip, I did a little bit of experimental work with the room fridge, and I can show you a little bit about what I learned there. And also I learned some interesting stuff about the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager in terms of its ability to operate at certain temperatures, and I'll share a little bit about that too. So let's keep going. So as always, you've seen this before. This is my setup. Every time I tinker with a component, I update this slightly. Maybe since the last videos, the one thing I would draw your attention to is that for the little the little USB angle connector that I use between the cooler to sort of point the power cables down, I'm now using a little component called the RME90, which I like very much. It has a very high wattage, so it stays very cool, and so yeah, so that's maybe the new thing to draw your attention to relative to previous trips. And then, of course, I've made some videos specifically on how I set all of that up. So for the voyage, as always, I will place all the components in the fridge the night before, make sure they're nicely chilled. Several hours before the trip, I'll take it all out, I'll switch the unit on, I'll put temperature probes in there, make sure everything's running, everything's cooling. And then about 2 hours before the trip starts, I will switch out the temperature probes and pack it live with the medicine that I'm transporting. And then I'll let that run for maybe another 30 minutes to an hour before I actually leave, continuing to make sure everything's working smoothly. And then I will rock and roll with the trip. As you know, when I do a live trip with live medicine, I do try and use the Tempify. You can tuck a Tempify into the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager right at the base of the unit once it's packed, and that's nice because you can use Bluetooth to take a peek via your phone at what the temperature is, because the little temperature gauge on the top of the unit's not quite as precise as I would like it to be, though it's kind of handy. And then sometimes I also have a second Tempify running, and it's just monitoring the local ambient temperature. So yeah, collecting a lot of data. So some subscribers were curious about how I carry the unit to the airport and around. And so I have two approaches. The first one is I have this kind of quite nice laptop rucksack that's quite large length. It's for the 17-inch screens. So it has quite a nice sort of extra space in it. And so one way I will carry it, depending on the situation, is I will simply place the unit in one of the pockets with the air vents sticking out, just as shown here. Other times, say I'm going through security checkpoints and other things, I might just literally carry it by itself with the handle from the holder that I use. So I sort of jump back and forth between carrying it directly by handle and sometimes tucking it into one of the pockets of my laptop bag. So here's how that looks. And there's been no issues with any of this in terms of temperature. But yes, be very careful not to block those air vents, because that's how the cooling mechanism works, and you want those to kind of flow well. So here I am, again, I'm at San Francisco Airport. I took some different photos this time. So this is just after the security checkpoint, and then I'm back in one of the club lounges and just chilling out at one of the tables here. I thought that was kind of a nice little shot there if you like the beverages bar. One new tip that has caught my attention with the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager is, so if you know this because you travel a lot, you might have noticed that a lot of the airports around the country and the world are making significant upgrades to their security screening technologies and systems, their X-ray machines, their body scanning machines, and so on and so forth. What I've noticed more recently is when I go through the inspection lanes at airports, the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager, as I have set it up, I don't know if it's maybe relating to the size of the battery or whatever, but it attracts the frequent attention of a secondary screen. And so when I say frequent, I'm going to say about, right now, so based on my travels, I'm going to say about 30 to 40% of the time when I go through the more modern security screens at the airport, the unit does get flagged for secondary screening. So what that means is, after you go through after it goes through kind of the scanning X-ray machine, there's often a little push lane where if an item gets selected for secondary screening, it gets pushed onto a side conveyance belt and then moved further down for one of the security or TSA officers to take a look. And so what I found is they ask who does this tray belong to, and I say it's me. And they say, what is this? Is it a water bottle? Is it a, what is this? And I express that it's a refrigerated medicine cooler, and it's active with medicine. And they say, oh, okay. And so they immediately kind of register and understand what it is, and then they will quite frequently do a chemical swab of the outside of the unit, and then they'll do that test, and then it will bleep negative, and then I'll be on my way. So, but I just wanted to bring your attention to that in case it happens to you and it sort of frazzles you a little bit. Don't panic. It's just it just seems to be I'm pretty sure it's the battery that catches the attention. So the battery, in combination with kind of a weird looking flask thing that could kind of look suspicious on an X-ray, I guess. I don't know exactly what the features are that catch the attention, but heads up on that. When I went through the security at London Heathrow, actually this time on the way back, I think it was, it caught the attention of the security officer there, and they have quite an elaborate sort of secondary inspection, automatic secondary inspection lane when you go through those screening lanes, where the sort of the baggage that's going to be secondary inspected gets pushed to the side. It goes down a side lane, and there's security officers waiting there, calling out, who does this belong to, and then come over here and so on. So I had to go to the secondary inspection station, and interestingly enough, the officer was quite hastily in the process of picking up the cooling unit and was interested to open it to have a look inside. And so I very hastily say, oh, I do apologize. I need to let you know that this is a medicine cooling system. It's not a water bottle. Please be careful. What are you trying to do? And they said, oh, I would like to open it to be able to swab the inside. And so basically what I had to do was to open up the 4ALLFAMILY VOYAGER to sort of show that aluminium tube that's inside it. And the security officer wanted to swab that, so they did. And then once they took the little swab, I reattached the lid back into to sort of the thermo flask. So that was quite a let's call it a little bit of a more intrusive secondary screening. But again, they didn't stop anything. They just wanted to, I think, just make sure there wasn't any strange explosives or other things that were going on with the system. They weren't so concerned that it was a battery or that it had medicine or so on. So I want to share those extra notes because they're more recent notes. They come with the more sophisticated screening equipment that's being installed, is my suspicion around that. And I just didn't want you to be frazzled that might happen. Just be prepared, and then just collaborate with the inspection officer. Let them know that it's a medicine cooler, and they will automatically, sort of become more careful, and then sort of they'll ask for your help in terms of what they're trying to achieve. So let's keep going. For this travel, I was again using British Airways, but a couple of slightly different things. So for the outbound trip, I was again in the first class cabin. For the Euro trip, I was in the Club World, the Euro, I guess it's the Club Europe cabin. Similar seats to previous trips. Interestingly enough, for the trip back, I was in the Club World cabin, but I decided to pick one of the seats, the window seats that points backwards. So all the pictures here of the seats, those are stock photos, but a little bit later on in the presentation, I have photos of the actual seats that I was in, and I think you'll find the videos and photos of the the plane seat on the return journey quite interesting to see, because I haven't shown those before. This is the setup for the first class cabin in British, on the British Airways A380 flight. So nothing funky here. I just took some stock photo. Yeah, I just took a photo of the unit, the cooler sitting on the chair as I was boarding, and then just some photos of how I get myself set up for the flight. So during the takeoff and landing, you can there's a little sort of little sort of container cupboard that's to the left side or the right side of your chair, and you can use that to basically store the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager on its side for the takeoff and landing, because you can close the hatch. And then during the flight, I actually left the flight open, and then had the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager just standing upright, because I wanted to sort of take a peek and see how it was doing. So here's photos of all that. At London Heathrow, one of the perks of getting upgraded to first class is you can access the British Airways Concorde lounge. I've shown this before, but this time I was in a slightly different seat, and I just took some photos of my where I parked myself for a few hours. Heads up, I actually spent nearly 6 hours in the lounge. I had a long connection flight, so I made myself very comfortable, and I was using these little power ports that were on the table and so on and so forth. So then I had the Euro flight. Nothing too fancy here. As before, I just sort of placed the cooler in the footwell, and then when the plane switched on the seat power for the charging and stuff, I just was able to plug it in there, and so you can kind of see the plug that's right nearby. So nothing too complicated. Then of course arriving at Basel. So this time actually Basel was preparing for the 2025 Eurovision Song Contest, and they had all these cute little hearts and other things on the luggage conveyor belt. So I took a picture of one of those because I thought that was kind of cool. There was a lot of cool stuff going on as they were preparing for the Eurovision Song Contest. So this is basically a data plot of the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager during the flight journey. And so, here you can sort of let me get my mouse working now. So this is just the probes in the fridge. Here you can see there's a little temperature blip while as I'm packing the unit. Then the unit gets packed, and then you can see here the ambient temperature of the ambient temperature probe is removed from the fridge, and you can see how it quickly goes up in temperature to sort of the ambient room temperature, and you can sort of see what that is along the journey. And then here you can sort of see the temperature of the cooler throughout the totality of the journey, all the way to arriving at the hotel. So this was a pretty substantial journey, but as you can see throughout the entire journey, there was no temperature excursions above 46 Fahrenheit, other than that little blip moment when I was sort of doing the packing, which is natural. The ambient temperature does crash very quickly when I get to the hotel. That's just because I was starting to play around with the mini fridge in the room with the sensor that I was using for measuring the ambient temperature. So that's not an artifact, that's simply just that it's starting to measure the temperature of a mini fridge. And as you can see, the mini fridge temperature wasn't actually that good. In terms of staying between 36 and 46. So yeah, let's keep going. So here's a picture of the room. For the time at the hotel room, I really just placed the unit right where the coffee station is for the totality of the time, except for when I was taking the medicine out. I was carrying two auto-injector pens for this trip. The little sort of pamphlets or printouts that I have here are basically in German and English. So, in Switzerland, a lot of people speak English, German, there's a few other languages, but I picked those two. It just instructs the hotel staff that this is a medicine cooler, please leave it alone, don't unplug it. And then actually the plug is behind right behind one of the pamphlets in the wall there, and so just absolutely making sure no one unplugs the cooler. The mini fridge is actually sitting in this cupboard here below the cooler, and so just to orientate you on that. And then of course I mentioned this tip before, watch out for rooms that have these on-off electrical cards, where if you leave the room, the power to a lot of the outlets in the room goes off. You can put a dummy card in those electrical the room electrical activation switches to make sure the power is continuously running to the room, which is important if you've got a kind of a cooler sitting there. So I'll keep on going. This is a video of the setup. So sometimes videos are a little bit nicer, so there you can see my cooler. And then also let's take a little peek at the mini fridge that's in the room there. So as I mentioned, it was sitting under that counter there. So there's the fridge. So I've got a little bit of milk going on there. You can see one of the Tempify sensors that I've placed there that I'm gonna see how this fridge performs and so on. And then of course some stock photos. On the left side, actually you can kind of see here's a 15 milligram Zepbound dose. It's still in the locked position. And then I thought I would take a picture of that just so I can prove to you that I was transporting live medicine that has not yet been used. You can see that little in the locked position when you use your Zepbound dose. You turn that little cap to the unlocked position so you can give yourself your dose. So there you go, a little bit of photo evidence there that this is the real deal. All right, so some more videos of the room and a little photo. So this is more towards the end of the trip. I'd kind of finished my doses. I figured I would put the unit by the windowsill and just give you a little view there of the streets around the Basel Marriott Hotel. So that's just a little side bonus for you to sort of enjoy. It's always nice to get a little bit of scenery. So for the room, so there's sort of two things going on here with this data set. So the first one is the black plot is the fridge temperature, and the purple plot is the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager cooler temperature. And of course, the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager cooler temperature is from the Tempify, this sitting right at the base of that unit. So it's actually in the most warmest position, which is the furthest away. And so as you can see, it still performs very, very nicely throughout the trip. You will notice there's a couple of little blips. Those little blips were when I basically opened up the unit to take my dose, and so there's no way around that. You will always see a little temperature blip when you open up the unit to get one of your pens. And then the little blip at the end here was I was getting ready for some return home setup. Basically what I did was I put the used auto injectors back in the cooler for the purposes of emulating transporting 2 pens on the return journey. But back to the fridge. So the mini fridge in the room that I was staying in didn't perform anywhere near as well as the fridge that I had in the previous room that I stayed in when I was at the same hotel. So as you can see, basically the mini fridge was hovering around the 47, 48 mark, and then every time I opened the fridge door, you could see that the hot air rushed in pretty quickly. and it sort of even went higher than 50 Fahrenheit on those many points. But disappointingly, this fridge basically was not running below 46 Fahrenheit, or 36 to 46 Fahrenheit, which is sort of the zone that the medicine connoisseurs like to have for when they transport their medicine. So this fridge performed very poorly, and actually I'm very glad that I didn't have to rely on it, and was actually for this entire stay fully reliant on the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager that ran continuously. So very interesting stuff. Next, what I want to show you is, so after I had taken my final dose for the trip, I was curious to see what would happen if you placed a 4ALLFAMILY Voyager in running and in a fridge that was running at just around 47 and a half Fahrenheit. And so I went ahead and did that. So here you can see the temperature of the fridge, and as I said, the fridges often have these little oscillations as they are running through the day, through the night. And here you can see the temperature sensor inside the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager and what happens. So very intriguingly, the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager starts to have a little bit of a hard time maintaining a temperature range of 36 to 46 Fahrenheit when it's inside a fridge that's operating at 47.5 Fahrenheit. So I thought this was very interesting, that basically the electrical thermal plate and the sensors of the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager were having a little bit of a hard time regulating themselves to an appropriate temperature during that test. And then later on, so what happened here towards the end of this test, this was sort of an overnight test. It was sort of, I think it was Thursday to Friday was how I did that. The following day, I removed the unit from the fridge, and then as you can see, it then went back to being able to perform and regulate it. So I thought this was very interesting. There wasn't any live medicine during this part. This was very experimental, but some things to think about is I am starting to wonder about let's say that you go on a holiday to somewhere that's very cold. The ambient temperature is going, it's going down to sort of that 47-48 Fahrenheit mark, and your 4ALLFAMILY Voyager is exposed to that temperature. That may be something to be careful about in terms of what the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager is able to do in terms of protecting your drug product, your medicine. So I haven't done a lot of experimental testing with how these coolers perform at very low temperatures or much lower temperatures, and so perhaps in the future I might do a little bit more of that now and then. So anyway, something to think about. But I think for the most people who are just traveling to most countries and other things, it's going to be maybe a little bit more unusual to have to deal with these sort of very low to freezing to sub-zero temperatures. But that said, we have a lot of places around the world that are very cold, and so this could be a point of interest for that. A little side detour. So one of the things that I've been getting very frustrated with is crappy hotel room coffee. So for this trip, I actually decided to play around with a manual coffee machine. So I brought with me this a little manual coffee machine kit, And then when I arrived, I went to the shop. I bought myself a bag of ground coffee, a nice one, and a nice little tub of honey. I like honey with my coffee, and I thought I would give it a whirl, and wow, what a difference it makes. Just thought I'd throw this in here. I was playing around with it on the side in the hotel room, and it's really quite nice to have really nice, fresh, tasty coffee in the morning, especially if you've been in a hotel room for like 2 weeks. Yes, of course, you can go down to the breakfast area, get coffee and that, but I like my coffee really, really strong. And so this was a nice little plus for me. I hadn't tried these travel coffee kits before, or manual travel coffee makers. But yeah, I thought I might just share that side tip with you on the side, that if you are a coffee connoisseur, might be worth thinking about something like this. Very easy to pack. It's very compact. Actually, the one that I had wasn't so elegant in terms of how it jigsawed together, so I had to use some elastic bands to kind of hold it all together. And I didn't like the paper filters, so I bought myself a little gold metal filter and stuff. So I kind of messed around with it, upgraded a little bit, and so ended up having to use elastic bands to kind of hold it all together for travel. But once it's disassembled and once you use it, it's very, very easy. So there's sort of the story there. I'll play that video one more time so you can see it. It's basically a piston. You push, after you let the coffee kind of diffuse for maybe 60 seconds or so, and then once you've done that, you use that little piston to slowly push down into your flask, and you have yourself a beautiful coffee. All right, let's get back to cooling now. So then I, of course, journeyed back. So for the journey back, actually, the British Airways flight had some new chairs, and instead of having that plug under the seat, they had this sort of little USB plug right near where the seat tray was, that looks like this. And so, nothing complicated, just different. There was 2 types of USB ports. I had plugs for both and some adapters for others, so I was very well set up. But just something to keep in mind, that as you go on different flights and different planes, you might need different types of connectors to kind of make things work. So, but again, I was using the little magazine pocket to have the to sort of have the unit sort of stored for the trip, and then it's very easy to plug in. As I mentioned, when I arrived at London Heathrow, actually this was when I had to go through this secondary screen. So they don't like taking photographs during in the screening areas, but I did manage to sneak in a quick one. This is basically where, after you do this sort of the secondary screen, there's a little table tray that you can use to sort of pack your stuff back up and so on. And so I grabbed a quick picture of that. And then, of course, when you're in Britain, what else is there to do than have a full English breakfast in the morning? And so there's a picture of that too. Enjoy. I won't repeat the rest on this slide because I already shared most of this earlier in the presentation around the secondary screening and how they wanted to swab the outer aluminium case for chemicals. Regarding the flight back, so as I mentioned, I selected a Club World seat on the upper deck, but it was by the window and it was rear facing. So what was interesting about this was you have these little compartments that are between the chair and the window, and I'll point those with the mouse. So here's the compartment, it's open right now, and then here's a top view, and these are super cool spaces to be able to store things. And I dropped not literally dropped, but I placed the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager unit inside that compartment. It fit perfectly, there was plenty of room, and it got the job done. And what I also did was, so later on in the flight, I'll play this video, I'll show you how I wired things up. So I have the wire running from the chair plug to the compartment to the 4ALLFAMILY Voyager. So one interesting thing you'll note here is the length of that wire was quite long. I think that was like I think I was carrying like a 6-foot, maybe 10-foot cable, and so that might be something that could be of interest for travel. Making sure you have enough of a cable length to be able to reach for the power plug to reach where the unit is stored. There's also a little drawer here. That white cable was actually just running to a drawer, and that's where I placed my cell phone for charging. So I will now show so here's the data for the return flight. So as you can see, from leaving the hotel all the way to getting back to my home in the Bay Area, California, the unit performed admirably. Towards the end of the trip, obviously here, I unpacked the unit, switched it off and all that stuff, and then actually I was on to doing some different experiments. So you can kind of ignore this little bit at the end, but all of this represents the temperature throughout the trip, and as you can see, it performed very, very well. So that's it. Yes, so that's it for this video. As I said, third time a charm with these international trip. The 4ALLFAMILY Voyager is continuing to tick along. It's been running for quite a long time at this point. I think I've had it running continuously for maybe 4 or 5 months at this point, when you add it all up with the travel, the testing and all of that stuff. And so it's performing very, very well, and under all of the different travel conditions here, it always managed to stay between 36 and 46 Fahrenheit, which is exactly what I want. And the batteries, the Inu batteries that I really like, I travel with 2 of them, and I've not had a situation where I've run out of charge because I've not been able to get to a power outlet. So that's sort of all I have for this video. I've got some more cool videos coming. So one of them is I have a trip to Chicago lined up, which I will have live medicine for that trip. I have another trip to Europe in August, and also the next video that I'm planning to make, hopefully very, very soon, is to report out on my prototyping work with the Yeti Rambler, and how one might be able to use that large thermo flask to transport quite a lot of medicine product, actually. And so yeah, stay tuned, and in the meantime, I wish you a wonderful day, and of course, stay cool.